to go?
We are good to go.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season 4. So I do invite you to have a look at the 3 previous seasons. There may be some topics there that relate to your reality today. So you can have a look at it. Those episodes are timeless. So they're good anytime you need them. And we're going to jump right in. And a very important topic. I work quite a bit with trauma in children, and a lot of people tend to downplay that because they're thinking they're always thinking big things. But I have the wonderful Faust Ruggiero with me. We're going to be talking about PTSD in particular, but everything that relates to that. So I'm going to put him right on the spotlight. Thank you so much, Faust, for joining me. I'm really glad you're on the show.
Danielle, it's a pleasure to be spending time with you today. Thanks for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure. Now, before we get started on this topic, can you talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I've been doing this work, counseling that is for, I think I'm a little over 45 years now, and and still doing it. I still love it. I've worked with couples, individual counseling, marriage, a lot of PTSD, a lot of work with veterans and first responders, and corporate consulting too. So I've been doing this for a long time. About 7 years ago, I began writing. I thought it was time to do something a little different. So we're now in the PTS book. It's called the Fixture PTSD Handbook. Is the 7th book in the series,
Oh,
and so far we're looking for a publication date probably in 2 weeks, first week of April at the latest. And already we're getting a lot of people, a Veterans Administration, different veterans groups saying, yeah, we want to read it and we want to start working with you. So when you get that and the first responders are coming aboard too, we know we're doing some good work with this.
absolutely. And something that is so needed because I think personally on my end, PTSD was not really addressed that well even like recently enough. And of course, there was a different word for it back in the day as well. But it's something we need to have conversations. It's a lot of people working with veterans. That's how I was introduced to working with PTSD and complex PTSD was through military and police forces. But um, I noticed it as well on the civil side of things, the civilian side of things, where with children, that's when I realized there was work to do, whether it's passed down or it's just our interpretation of the traumatic event will have different reactions. This is what I appreciate about your work because you don't just go into the physical and psychological, but we really do address the emotions that we attach to whatever event happened. Can you walk us through a little bit on your approach and how you work
Sure.
with people?
Sure. I've always been a very practical person in my work, very pragmatic. Okay, here's the information, and that's wonderful. I want you to get all these things, bare your soul, do all these things. But when it's all said and done, you have to be able to answer the question, what's he giving me? What am I supposed to do with all of this information? So I'm
Right.
very much a step-by-step person. Whether it's my counseling in my personal life, in the books, every chapter has action steps at the end of them.
Mhm.
The average book, the Fixture PTSD handbook probably has 150 steps, different things people can do at different stages of the development of this. The big thing, two questions I ask people when I'm counseling them, I'll say, have you ever been traumatized in your life? And I'm
Mhm.
not talking about someone beating you up. Have you ever had that moment where everything just went sideways?
Yeah.
Almost everyone says yes. And then I ask the second question. I say, what have you done about it?
Mm.
And how did you work through it? And that's when you get that deer in the headlights stare back at you.
Yeah.
Almost everyone has been traumatized. We don't get through life without that. And then it's what we do with it. So the first thing, myth, if you will, I love to dispel is that this is not just about veterans and police and first responders. This is all of us. We've all been traumatized. It might have been a single blow, or it might be a more of a chronic spread out kind of thing, abuse over years. We've all had it. Now we have to ask what we want to do about it.
Right. And that's what's missing, I think, in addressing PTSD is we just kind of assume we have to deal with it and, just roll with the punches, which clearly isn't working for us. But uh, how do you, I guess a lot of the times we're not necessarily aware that this is what we're going through, especially if it's not, you're thinking, I just came back from the war. Okay, yeah, that was traumatic. Or you just got into a huge, you're on site, you know, if whether it was an attack or there's a fire or whatever it is, an accident on the side of the road. Those are, we know they're huge, they're big, and we tend to look after that. But for the repetitive trauma that may have started when you were younger or something not necessarily huge, but it did affect your system in the same way. What are you able to help people recognizing the signs that there could be
Oh,
PTSD, even if they're
sure.
just like, I have no reason to be, to think that that's what it is. But how does your body, how do you get them to see that it is PTSD?
We start talking about what a baseline
Hmm.
measure is, what we should be like normally. And then we see how they're deviating from that. I'll ask them questions about depression or anxiety. Do you get depressed? Do you experience anxiety on the physical level? Are you quick to react emotionally? Because one of the things about PTSD is that hyperarousal state that we're in. When it's there, we learn how to deal with it, but we're also on guard most of the time because we don't want to have a repeat episode. We don't want the old one to come back. And so when the body and the emotions and the mind are all working like that, then the person is on guard all the time. So I'll ask them
Mm,
about their emotions. Are you a quick reactor? And I'll ask about racing thoughts or replays, flashbacks of old things. Do you get that deja vu feeling that something gets through? So I ask those kinds of questions, and you'd be surprised how many people they take a step back and they say, I never thought of it that way because the mind's way to keep us okay is to normalize things, make them so that they feel normal so they don't feel like a threat all the time. Then you stop thinking about it though. So then
yeah,
it seems to go away, but it always comes back.
yeah, that's such a good point. We normalize it. And I think that some of the cases the, that I work with the families is it almost seems sometimes the trauma happens when they realize that what they went through was not normal. And now they're going through that shock of, what do you mean? Like, oh my God, why did I not see this sooner? And then they start unraveling. So it's difficult. Uh, I'm going to expand it a little bit just after everything that you said. There's so much that we could do, but I'd like to expand it on with the families or the people that are closer to those people that are going through this PTSD. What maybe could be a two-part question here, but how can you approach it if you notice that your family member, your loved one, whoever may be showing signs of PTSD, but you don't know how to approach it, they're not seeing it, or what kind of resources or what kind of help can they be looking for to be able to support that person?
The first way I'd answer that question, Danielle, is what not to do, which is to say, what's wrong? Come on, there's something wrong. You should do this.
Yeah.
Get that because they're not going to listen to that. That's threatening. It'll feel threatening. What you want to do is just say, hey, like in any problem, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing you react. I'm seeing maybe you're isolating. You seem numb, which, as we know with PTSD, denial and numbing it down is a very big a way
Yeah.
to deal with this thing. So I say, tell them what you are observing and then let them talk and listen. You're not going to get where you want to go in 1 hour, one session with them. You're going to build up a kind of a trust with them so they can say, I can go there and talk a little bit. Or that person said those things, but never pushed me, so I can say a little more.
Yeah.
then because what you want to do is really, you're not going to cure anything. Family members do not have the ability to stop PTSD, almost all of them, unless you're trained. What your goal is to say, maybe we should get you to the doctor.
Mm,
Let's get a physical checkup. You're reacting. I can see you nervous, whatever. I mean, would you mind? I'll go with you if you want me to, and you start your goal is just to get them to the next level, which is usually primary care physician. For some people, they're willing to go talk to someone. And it's okay, I can't get this. I can't sleep at night. I'm getting dreams and flashbacks. That's a little more pronounced. But for other people, keep in mind, for a PTS survivor, when they go to a counselor or a doctor, they know they're going to tear into that problem again, which means they get to re-experience it and they're going to
yeah,
run as fast as they can away from that until they understand that you can do that in a safe place.
right. And it's that safety that's so important. Otherwise, the nervous system kicks back in. But uh,
Hmm.
what would be your recommendations for people who are going through it with that guilt that you feel when you are being reactive and the impact that has on your loved ones or the people that are, close in your circle? Um, how does guilt fit into this and how can we help in saying it's okay, we're here, um,
Yeah.
it's not your fault,
There's,
that kind of
I
thing.
don't,
Yeah.
there's introductory guilt which is, okay, that happened. I could have done something differently.
Right.
I have I do a case study that runs actually through 5 different chapters in the book. It's about a person who was in Iraq and 2 deployments and lost his men on 2 different occasions and came back with survivor's guilt and all those kinds of things. So the first is the question where you say, what could I have done different? My child, this happened to them. I should have been there, those kinds of things. The second one is when you hurt someone, when you lash out, when you break up the house, or just mean, or you're not where you should be, your responsibilities aren't being addressed, then you feel guilty, you're letting people down. And again, I say the same thing to people. If those things are happening, it's not a reflection on who you are, it is a reflection on what you have. You know,
Mm,
if you broke your leg, you don't want to feel guilty because you can't go outside and mow the grass. You
right.
can't, someone else is going to help you. You have PTSD. You can't relate the way you'd like to in that loving, warm, safe fashion. So you want to get that condition addressed.
Mm,
That's all it is. It's not who you are.
yeah. That is so important. I love that analogy. I never thought of it that way, but you're right. It's just would you feel guilty not mowing the lawn if you broke? Yeah, that's it's a good way to look at it. It takes that pressure off, I think, right?
Sure.
To
It's a
say, am I a
condition you have which
yeah,
came from something you did not do. You didn't
mm,
go out and do something traumatic to yourself, and then, unless you're an addict or someone maybe who
right,
tried to commit suicide, you tried to hurt yourself. Other than that, something happened to you.
yeah,
That being the case, you're the victim. I do a whole chapter on victimization. PTSD causes people to feel like victims. It's like they're
yeah.
eating themselves up from the inside. So you feel like you're a victim all the time. Again, it's a condition you have, and the other thing is it's very, very treatable.
Mhm.
The advances we made in PTSD treatment are just phenomenal.
And that's the reassuring part, and the fact that if we could get more people talking about it and being open about it, it does make it easier. It is treatable, and that's the reassuring thing about it. It's not something that you just have to deal with for the rest of your life, unless you're not doing anything about it. It's not going to get better. But I appreciate that. There's another reality that I think those families will face is the people that downplay PTSD. They'd be like, "Oh, come on, get over it," how do you address that when it shows up? Because it will show up, no matter where you are or what stages you are, it does show up.
And that's on again 2 levels. So some people just like that. They
Yeah.
don't want to deal with it, so they're, come on, get over it. Or people who have been living with a person who have gone
Mhm.
through PTSD, and then now it's years down the road, and they're saying, "Please, will you just stop? Get over this thing already."
Yeah.
What I tell people is try to just push them, not even push them, gently nudge them to get to the doctor and get that story out. It's about getting the story out. That's
Yeah.
all this is. Once the story comes out, you can deal with it. But get over it. There's no such thing as just getting over PTSD. It doesn't work that way because it
Yeah.
grabs every part of you, intellectually, physically, emotionally, even spiritually. It comes in and grabs everything. So you're working, you have to work on so many levels when you're treating it.
Yeah. It's so true. And it could be frustrating when you're being told, because again, it adds to that, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I? That victim part, right? It's just to be able to block that out and to know that you need to reach out and get that
You
help.
do. I tell
It's
people
so hard.
if you don't reach out, then where you are right now is where you'll stay.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to reach out and you want to get not just to a counselor who is qualified with PTSD. There's a difference. We get a lot of coaches and all those people out there who say, yes, I can treat it. No, unless you're trained. And I remember, you talk about veterans. My first experience with real PTSD was I've been doing first responder work and some work for police departments, and the veterans came over and said, "Yeah, you know, you want to help us with this?" And sure, the first person I had was a Vietnam veteran who was a
Mm.
POW in the jungles of Vietnam. And they would march them all day long, starve them at night. They would hang them upside down so they couldn't run. And this went on for, I think, 2 or 3 months. That was
Wow.
my introduction to PTSD. And I remember saying to myself, I think I'm overmatched because I don't have the information. So I really had to get back to the VA and say, all right, give me some of this stuff. And we did great work because he was willing to
Yeah.
open up and I was willing to listen. And I remember the first thing I said was, this isn't who you are. But yeah, but look at what I'm doing. I woke up last night and, screamed and, I ran to the closet and got my weapon, which of course wasn't loaded, which is great.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm doing. I'm terrifying my family. Still not you. It's what's happened to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, oh, that's so important to get through to people. If I can get through to that person, we can get through to most people. Again, but we have to be able to say, I have to become an expert in treating PTSD. I have to know everything about it.
That is such an important thing. And to ask that question, if you are reaching out, it's already hard enough to reach out, but to make sure you are getting somebody who's experienced it, who's seen the levels. And I think there's so much to do there. And my experience, I had a personal one before I had a professional experience, but um, in the personal one, I was 17, 18, and there was a war vet next to me. He was in the infantry here, and I was just listening to Pink Floyd. I think it was Pink Floyd. And there's a song where the helicopters come on,
Yeah.
and it just took him right back. And he was in battle mode in the car. I was just learning to drive. So that was my initial experience of PTSD, and having to calm down to stop and have him calm down was terrifying. But the other one was in the debriefings as well. At the time, it was the approach of debriefing. There was just like, let's talk about what happened, and okay, it's done. But it wasn't done for that person. So it was, yeah, you do need to have that background to be able to address it when it does happen.
You do, and you made a real good point there. He went into battle mode. What
Mm.
happens with PTSD, as I'm sure you know, is that fight or flight doesn't turn off.
Yeah,
That is such a huge, huge component. So it could be any little trigger at all. It could be,
yeah,
just the firework outside the house. It could be the loud noise. It could be a song, a television show, whatever it may be.
yeah,
And it triggers, and then the body goes into fight or flight. And for people who don't know what that is, that's what happens when we get into a situation that could be threatening to us. And you experience that where the whole body, everything goes up. That's done on purpose. The body then is throwing all resources for you either to run away from that or to go fight. But since it requires so many resources and is so devastating on the body after,
yeah,
it's meant to be a minute, 2 minutes, and even five. But then you're done. When you
right,
have PTSD, that doesn't turn off. It may not be on a scale of 1 to 10, it may not be an 8, but it's always running at a 3 or 4, so to speak. And because the person's body, mind, and emotions are ready to do something just in case. It's not a conscious thing. They cannot turn it off. It's a
That's it.
physical thing. That's really what it is. It's physical, and you can't turn the body off. And they'll say, I'm thinking, I'm trying to think myself down. My body will not turn off because your body doesn't know how to get out of fight or flight, which is again another part of the program, something we teach them.
That's right. Yeah, and if you're dealing with military or police or first even first responders, they are trained to be reactive, especially in the army. That you follow a command, you don't take time to question it. You just act, and when you're in that conflict environment, you don't have time to think, wait, am I just feeling a little off? No, you just react. So yeah, and that can be terrifying when you're not in that, and yeah, and you're witnessing that person having a flashback or just um, reacting to something. It's you need to be prepared for that. So I do appreciate that you mentioned that there is a difference between somebody who's trained to help people with PTSD and then people who just took a master class or something that they've heard about it but they've never actually walked somebody through it. Is so important. I could keep you on for so long. This episode is going by so fast, but I do want to talk about your work, and we'll talk about how people can reach you. But is there anything that you've got going on that you'd like to share with us at the moment?
There is, the new book is coming out, as I said, and uh, important for people to understand that it has everything, all the information about trauma, how it moves into PTSD, and how to treat that. And all the action steps are there. It's designed to be for people who may have been treated with PTSD, and then a great refresher. It's a reference book, so they keep on going back. But it's also designed to give people enough information to say, okay, this is how I need to put my program together, because that's the last 6 or 7 chapters is now let's do your individual program, and it tells them how to do all those things. So again, that'll be out first a couple weeks of April. The other thing we're doing is we're doing a documentary on what's called Aftermath on PTSD,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and is a friend of mine who was uh, uh, in Las Vegas, I think it was 6, 7 years ago when the Las Vegas shooting was there. He was there dancing with his wife, enjoying the show. Jason Aldean was on the stage, and the shots began raining out. So, him being the person he is, for the better part of the evening, hours and hours, he was running in and out with first responders carrying victims. So he shoulder out, but what he found was that a few months later, he couldn't function. The
Yeah.
PTSD, the trauma of that went into PTSD. And so we're going to look at that at the first episode. That's why we're calling it Aftermath. Here's the trauma.
Yeah.
Aftermath essentially is PTSD. And this is what people go through. And his story is a happy one because he did find someone skilled in PTSD, did the right therapies to come through it. Is whole now and tours the country doing PTSD work. So that documentary, we're not sure when that'll come out. All the work is done to get ready to shoot. Now we're just into the funding partners, all that nice part where we say, hey, can you come aboard and help us fund this thing? So once we sell
Right.
that, we're going to be ready to go and start to get that ready. So I'm really excited about that.
That is an exciting project and it's such an important one because this what I like about that is what people don't understand sometimes is you have the traumatic event and you're fine because your body, the adrenaline is still pumping, but it's afterwards where things start to settle down, but you can't just shake it off.
You can't shut it
Uh,
off. That's it. Your
yeah,
body doesn't reset. That's what we call,
that's it. Yeah,
it goes back to normal. With folks experiencing PTSD, the body doesn't reset. And since it doesn't reset, then it stays in that hyper kind of mode,
yeah,
and you never really you get away from it. So you're always, an inch away from reacting.
yeah. Oh wow, such a beautiful project. I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that. Is there any way that people, if they want to learn more about it, if they want to help with in any way, what's the best way to contact you or
Mhm.
to get more information?
To contact me, it's via my website. It's my name, faustruggiero.com. Everything about me is there. All the excerpts from the books are there. And as soon as we go through the funding stage of the documentary, then we'll start putting maybe some little excerpts and things like that. And we'll eventually do a trailer, and we'll have that there. So
Mhm.
all those things will be there once we get this rolling.
That's awesome. I will make sure to put the information in the description of this episode so people can refer to it. But if this topic resonated with you in any way and you'd like to help, you can definitely look for the information there. I think we all want to see that documentary come out to give a really a realistic view of what that really
Yeah.
looks like in action. So I do appreciate all your work. Like I said, I could have you on for so much longer. We'll definitely have to do another episode. But I guess we could wrap up on a lighter side of things because this could be a heavy topic for some listeners. But I do ask my guests, and I can't remember if I told you about it, but I do ask my guests at the end what you would like to be when you grow up.
It's interesting. I think I'm probably in the profession that I was meant to be for. But the documentary brings it out. When I was younger, it was kind of a toss-up between going into psychology or film work. So here we are now. The books were doing well, and we I got together with our producer, and she said, "Yeah, let's do a documentary." So here I get to be doing some of this kind of work. So yeah, when I grow up, maybe I'll sell more books and do a film or whatever. In the meantime, if I am where I am now, I have my faith, my family, and what I'm and doing with people, and I'm good.
That's beautiful. You're in a spot now where you can enjoy the best of both worlds.
Yes,
And oh, I love that. That's why I love asking that question because there's no limit to it, right? And it'll be different
there isn't.
5 years from now.
And the advice for people, you just heard what we were talking about in the last minute or so. If you've got dreams, all you need is a plan to make
Yeah.
it happen. They're not just going to come through. If you have something, you say, I would love to be this, or I'd like to do this project. Do all the research, talk to all the people, see how you can bring it to fruition, and don't give up on yourself. You're never
Yeah.
too old.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for playing along. I think
Ah,
it's
my
wonderful.
pleasure.
I love it. I ask adults that question. I don't ask children because I find that limiting for children. But I think for adults, it's just fun. You never get the same answer, and it just helps us to see we're still growing, we're still evolving, and there's still so much more we could be doing. So
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe you'd like to add to or share some more wisdom with us on the
One
topic?
of the things I love to tell people most is that, we spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people, following the crowd, and all they do is bring us to points of envy and anger and all those things. Everything you have, everything you need to be happy, to be successful, to really feel a good full life is already inside you. All you have to do is clear out all this stuff that got piled on top of it like
Yeah.
PTSD and any other thing you're dealing with, when you clear all that out and then you come home to yourself, you realize I had this all the time. I could have done this, yet I let myself get distracted and led over here and followed the crowd there. Be who you want to be. Find that power inside you.
I love that. Thank you. You've given us so much gold here today. I really do appreciate you coming on. And again, I'm serious if you ever want to come on, give us an update on the documentary and the book and
Sounds
all of that.
great.
I'd love to have you back on. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody watching or listening, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to go check out Faust's website to get information on his book and also the documentary if you're feeling called to help in every way you can. It is a great cause. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.